He married her for water rights and tried to sell her land behind her back. Jake Lawson looked like a rugged cowboy, but he was hiding forged documents and a ruthless plan. What he didn't know, Evelyn May Hudson had a trust, a secret fortune, and a quiet strategy that would shatter him overnight. But just wait until you see how this twist unfolds, and why justice, in the end, came with a teacup and a signature. Texas, summer of 1979. The sun didn't just shine in Pecos County that year, it scorched. Heat waves shimmered off the dry earth like illusions, and the wind carried nothing but dust and silence. Wells ran dry, fields cracked open like old leather, and ranchers watched helplessly as their cattle collapsed under a sky that hadn't rained in months. Among them was Jake Lawson, a rancher once known for his proud herd and iron grit, but pride doesn't water livestock, and grit won't pay off a mountain of debt. Jake's ranch was dying. The land was brittle, the grass yellowed to straw, and the water tanks sat hollow. A dozen dead cows lay buried behind the barn that spring, each one another reminder that he was losing everything. The bank wanted its money. The feed store stopped running tabs. Jake needed salvation. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. And then came a whisper about a woman who owned not just land, but the last reliable water source in the region. Her name was Evelyn May Hudson. She lived alone on a parcel of land her father had wrestled from dust and cattle rustlers a generation ago. Her house stood quiet, white paint peeling under the sun, shaded by two ancient oaks and flanked by an untouched spring that fed her crops, her animals, and the envy of the entire county. Evelyn wasn't rich, at least not in the way most folks think of it. She wore hand-me-down dresses, tended chickens herself, and drove a pickup that rattled louder than it ran. But what she had, that water, made her powerful. Still, Evelyn was known for her kindness, and Jake was good at reading people. He rode up to her fence with a tired smile and a tipped hat, said he was just passing through, talked about the heat, about the sky, about loneliness. And she listened, because no one had spoken to her like that in years, like she mattered. Jake knew how to spin charm. He called her ma'am with a drawl that felt like velvet, helped her repair a shed, drove fence posts, picked fresh peaches with her in the evenings. And every time he leaned just close enough to brush her shoulder, Evelyn's heart beat a little louder. The townfolk raised their eyebrows. Some warned her quietly in the grocery store line. "You don't know where Jake's been since he lost his place," said Mrs. Donnelly from the feed shop. "He never stays anywhere long," muttered the gas station owner. But Evelyn wanted to believe. Maybe it was loneliness. Maybe it was hope. Maybe it was the way Jake looked at her like she was the last green thing in a dead world. Whatever it was, she believed. 2 months later, under a golden sky and a borrowed veil, they were married in her garden, with just the pastor and 2 witnesses. That night, Jake held her hand on the porch, told her they'd start over together, build something real. But by sunrise, Evelyn noticed the first crack in the promise. Jake was in the study, thumbing through dusty property deeds. She caught him tracing his finger over the maps of the spring, nodding to himself. When she asked what he was doing, he smiled and said, "Just trying to get a better handle on things. A man's got to understand what he's responsible for, right?" He started locking the office door when he used the phone. Strangers began visiting, men with briefcases and pressed shirts, not the kind who cared about cattle or fences. Evelyn caught snippets. Aquifer rights, exclusive transfer, corporate interest. The warmth left his eyes. His touch turned brief, transactional. Like affection was part of some agreement he was trying to get out of early. And then, one evening, she overheard everything. She stood quietly outside the den, hidden by a cracked door and the shadows of dusk. Jake was on the phone, his voice low and smooth. "Yeah, old man. I did it. Got the ring on her finger. Water's mine now. Just need her to sign that power of attorney, and we're home free." Evelyn didn't cry. She didn't move. She just listened. And something inside her, something deep and quiet, changed. Evelyn didn't cry. She stood in silence behind that wall, listening. Every word Jake said over the phone carved a line into her memory. He didn't love her. He'd married her for water. And now he was making plans to take it all. The next day he brought her more papers. For taxes, he claimed. She signed quietly, already watching, waiting. He started locking the office, brought strangers to the house, shut the well to conserve. In truth, he was tightening the noose. Neighbors noticed, but no one said a word. After all, it was her husband, her business. Then came the bulldozer. He rolled it onto her father's land at sunrise, announcing he was selling the back acres. Evelyn said nothing. She just turned, walked inside, and opened a box she hadn't touched in years. Her father's will was still there, and in it, a clause. If the land was ever divided or sold without her full consent, everything would transfer to the Hudson Trust. Her husband wouldn't see a dime. She gathered the will, the forged signatures, the tapes she'd recorded of his calls, and one more thing, a bank statement from an account Jake never knew about. Over $2 million, money left by her mother, invested, protected. She drove to her father's old lawyer and laid it all on the table. He read in silence, then looked up. "If you say the word," he told her, "he won't get a drop. Not a dollar, not a grain of dirt." Evelyn nodded once. "Do it," she said. Jake woke to chaos, dogs barking, engines growling, tires grinding into gravel. When he looked out the window, men in uniforms were stepping out of black vehicles. Not strangers, officials, lawyers, deputies, bank agents, all with folders and firm expressions. Before he could throw on his boots, they were already on the porch. "Mr. Lawson," said one of the men, holding up a thick stack of papers, "you've been served." Charges: fraud, forgery, attempted sale of property he didn't own, bank accounts frozen, transactions voided, land deeds revoked. The ranch? No longer his. The entire property had been placed under the protection of the Hudson Trust. The gates were locked, the wells secured, and a new manager had already been installed, a retired Marine, handpicked by Evelyn, who walked the perimeter like a man guarding treasure. Jake shouted, demanded, cursed the air, and then tried to call for Evelyn. She stepped out onto the front porch, calm as the morning wind, holding a delicate china teacup. She didn't flinch. She didn't hurry. She looked him dead in the eye. "You wanted water, Jake?" she said, tilting her head just slightly. "Good luck finding where you're going." The deputies moved in. Jake was taken away, speechless, stunned, and humiliated. No one comforted him. No one stood by. He left the property with his hands empty, his plans shattered. The local papers ran the story the next day. Cowboy married for water rights, drowned in his own greed. And Evelyn? She didn't gloat. She got to work. She expanded the ranch, hired local hands, and opened an animal shelter on the West Field. School kids came on field trips. Families sent letters asking for advice on land restoration. And little by little, Evelyn May Hudson became a legend. People called her Iron Water Evelyn, not because of the spring, but because nothing could shake her. And the audience, they don't just feel satisfied, they cheer. Because in the end, the villain didn't just lose, he lost to the quiet woman he never saw coming. And justice, it came dressed in boots, with a cup of tea and a signature that changed everything.